Welcome back to Voltage Bros, where two brothers talk about movies, and today it's just the one brother reacting to your comments of what movies I should watch. Now, I said in the last video that I would watch the top 3 comments of that video. The first movie from a comment that I decided to watch was Catch Me If You Can, and this movie is super fun. This was actually the 3rd time that I have watched it, and each time I watch it, it gets more emotional. The first time I watched it, I said, this is a cool story, man. This guy's cool. He's like ripping people off. He's doing his little scams. It's just cool. It's just a cool movie to watch. And then the second time, you're like over the cool stuff and you get more into the emotional side of things. Where like, okay, this is actually a sad story about a boy who needs his mama and daddy. And then this time it just got even worse. You know, his relationship sucks, life is falling apart, and it gets more emotional. And I think the reason for that is, you know, once you watch a movie and you get sad about it, it's sad. But then when you start thinking about it and having to watch it again, it just gets worse as that moment just starts to build up. You're like, oh no, it's just sad. But the acting is great. Leonardo DiCaprio, he's really good at acting just like a kid. And sometimes you forget how young he is until he throws out a certain line. And then you're like, oh, he's freaking 16 right now in this movie. And he does a really good job at embodying a young kid. And then overall, the movie has a good message at the end where you can turn something bad into something good. So I think this movie is great. Thanks for the suggestion. The next movie that I decided to watch from the comments was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And I'd never seen this movie before. And this movie is completely different than what I thought it was going to be about. I thought this movie was about survival, about different creatures in the ocean, and just exploration. And the movie is really just about the characters and the morality of what the villain is doing. And the villain's name is Captain Nemo, and I have heard this name before, Captain Nemo. It's an iconic name. And so I expected this guy to be the hero of the story. But no, he's the villain. And when you can write a villain so well that the villain's name goes down in history instead of the protagonist, that is a win. He definitely is a well-written villain. Also because of the movie posters and the book posters, you know, you have this giant squid, so you know this giant squid is going to be some big part of the story. But actually this giant squid kind of just ends up being a side note to the rest of the story. It's like they advertised it to be a main part of the story, but it only really ends up not affecting the story that much. It's just a cool action scene that happens at the end, which is cool, but I was just surprised. So again, thank you for the suggestion. The next movie that I watched was Quigley Down Under, and I'd never heard of this movie. I don't watch very many westerns, and this was a great suggestion. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit because it has the perfect mix of predictability with originality. You know where the story is headed, you've seen this setup before. It follows classic beats very closely, but it adds its own flavor to those tones. What I'm trying to say is it's a classic story with its unique flair. Also, each character is embodied so well by their actor, and the humor in this movie is great too. I don't know how else to describe it except that it's like Marvel humor before Marvel humor got dry. Like when the two main characters are just beaten up and then laying in the desert and they're on the ground, and that's a dramatic moment. And then the dramatic moment is lifted by one character saying, well, first day of work is always really hard. You know, so it just has those lighthearted moments at the end of dramatic moments. And it's fun for this movie. It really works. So thank you guys for all the suggestions. I had a lot of fun watching these movies. But anyways, I've got a bolt.